The unemployment rate is a measure of the prevalence of unemployment and is calculated as a percentage by dividing the number of unemployed individuals by all individuals currently in the labor force. During periods of recession, an economy usually experiences a relatively high unemployment rate. Gross domestic product, GDP, is the market value of all goods and services produced within a country in a given period. GDP per capita is often considered an indicator of a country's standard of living. Our first graph shows the growth of money supply since 1971. 1971 was selected as the last remaining currency to be converted to gold was made inconvertible. The second graph indicates that the quantities of money are increasing at an accelerated rate. In 1990, the total currency in circulation surpassed 1 trillion. As you can see, just 12 years later, the total amount surpassed 2 trillion. This amount doubled again in 2008 to 4 trillion. It is believed that this continual increase in the money supply will lead to higher consumer prices for goods. It is also viewed that inflation and deflation are occurring at the same time. When the money supply increases, interest rates decrease, and the demand for money will decrease, and lead to more investments, more money in the hands of consumers, which makes them feel wealthier and stimulates spending, increased sales, which will provoke businesses to order more raw materials and increase production. The increase of business activity will increase the demand for labor and raise the demand for capital goods. When the supply of money decreases, or when its rate of growth declines, interest rates increase and the demand for money increases, which will lead to disinflation or deflation, resulting in falling prices, higher interest rates, and a decrease in business activity. Inflation is defined as a sustained increase in the general level of prices for goods and services. It is measured as an annual percentage increase using the Consumer Price Index. As inflation rises, the dollar buys less goods and services. Other types of inflation include deflation, hyperinflation, and stagflation. Deflation indicates the dollar buys more goods and services. Hyperinflation is an unusually rapid inflation, and if too great, it can break a monetary system. Stagflation is a combination of high unemployment and economic stagnation while inflation is occurring. Theories for inflation are when money is too abundant compared to quality of services or products in the market. Inflation is regulated by the central bank, who adjusts interest rates to set a healthy inflation for the economy. A major economic indicator is an economic statistic which indicates how well the economy is doing and how well the economy will do in the future. Three major economic indicators are the unemployment rate, gross domestic product, GDP, and the inflation rate. The Great Wall Street Crash of 1929 was the most devastating stock market crash in the history of the United States. This began the 10-year Great Depression. The Dow Jones sank from 400 to 145 points. By the end of the crash, $16 million worth of market capitalization had been lost from the New York Stock Exchange stocks. With the financial system in ruins, mass poverty and unemployment followed. The recession of 1937 is often called the Roosevelt Recession. This recession lasted about 13 months when the economic recovery from the Great Depression was temporarily stalled. The unemployment rate increased from 14.3% to 19%, and manufacturing output fell by 37%. The economy recovered after President Roosevelt obtained $3.75 billion in new spending from Congress. Black Monday refers to the worldwide stock market crash of Monday, October 19, 1987. The crash began in Hong Kong, spreading west to Europe, and hit the U.S., resulting in the Dow Jones Industrial Average to drop 508 points. The financial crises of 2008 led to the worst recession since the Great Depression of 1929. Despite the efforts by the Federal Reserve and Treasury Department, housing prices fell 31.8%. When housing prices began to decline, mortgage delinquencies increased, causing a large decline in the capital of many banks, tightening credit around the world. The U.S. automobile sector was weakened by the rise in fuel prices, which in turn caused a decline in sales of fuel-efficient, large sport utility vehicles. By distorting interest rates and price signals, and as a consequence creating malinvestments that must be eventually liquidated, monetary booms always end in economic busts. What this potentially means is that the current inflation cycle may end up making the Great Recession look like a walk in the park. The Fed has three tools at its disposal to impact the money supply. 1. Open market operations, the federal funds rate target. 2. Discount lending. And 3. The reserve requirement. So, what should the U.S. do at this juncture? The Taylor rule is an equation that says the target federal funds rate should be based on the current inflation rate, the real federal funds rate, a long-run equilibrium rate, the gap between real GDP and full employment GDP, and the gap between actual inflation and the inflation target. What this shows is how the rule responds to economic conditions, including both prices and output. This relationship makes the federal fund rate target answerable to concerns about both price stability and the business cycle, setting and adjusting prudent rates that will stabilize the economy in the short term and still maintain long-term growth.